The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has been out for quite some time now, and despite the high praise, I think many people, myself included, are taking it for granted. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about why this game is doing so much more than meets the eye, and why we'll be lucky to get any game in the future that even comes close. First, let's talk about Ultrahand, using Link's new Zonai arm to pick up objects and glue them together, creating anything from a simple bridge to an elaborate flying machine. This is brand new for the Zelda series, but more importantly, a building system like this, which combines the new Zonai devices with the world's own objects and physics engine, is something that's currently without comparison. And as if that wasn't enough, the team added auto build, allowing players to save their best creations in an easily accessible menu, which does wonders to increase convenience. I remember making a first impressions video the week the game came out, and there I said I wish it would let you save your favorites so you didn't have to rebuild every time. Lo and behold, I played the game for a few more weeks and there it is. Auto build was there all along. The moment I found that out hit me hard. Is there anything they didn't think of with this game? As I play through Tears of the Kingdom, I'm still realizing many of the small improvements over Breath of the Wild. There's a better UI, we can now save recipes and cook them whenever and wherever with a portable Pod Zonai device. Korok puzzles are so much better, and Breath of the Wild didn't have a great solution to speed up long distance travel. Sometimes in Breath of the Wild, I'd get annoyed or fatigued having to walk long distances. Now I just pop open auto build and make a vehicle. But the beauty of it is it's not a brain-dead easy traversal solution either. You still have that early game struggle, and it's only later on when you get your Zonite and charges up that you really get the freedom to ride. And the effort you invest pays dividends when you have to travel through some of the game's tougher environments like sand and snow. I can point to several extremely clear examples of how the developers took extreme care in thinking about how systems were going to work. In most cases, they took any areas of frustration players had in Breath of the Wild and carefully, smartly addressed them, making this one of the most impressive sequels I've ever seen. Which is absolutely insane because the game it's improving so much upon is already considered one of the best of all time. Tears of the Kingdom is sickeningly good. I feel spoiled when I'm playing it, almost like I don't deserve it. And the more I think about it, the more these feelings grow. So now you can kinda see why we can't take this game for granted. I could go on all day. You thought climbing tall cliffs was annoying in Breath of the Wild? Now we simply ascend to the top, allowing Link to pass through pretty much any and all objects overhead, whether they're still or moving. I can't imagine that was an easy system to develop. And yet, that's only a small part of this game. I'll admit, recency bias is a real thing, but you could make a strong argument that the Zonai abilities are the most impressive set of systems in any video game, period. I still remember that feeling of awe I felt that day watching the Aonuma gameplay demonstration and realizing that little bit of what we were in for. It's going to be tough to imagine going into a future Zelda without the Zonai arm abilities. Just like how it was tough to think about how we could ever possibly ditch the Sheikah runes from Breath of the Wild. And I haven't even touched upon Fuse yet, which actually might be the most impressive of the bunch. The amount of possible Fuse combinations is in the millions, and this alone is mind-boggling. But let's just think of the system itself, conceptually and devoid of the numbers. It's incredibly clever, and now picking up a basic sword is no longer boring. With Fuse, that 50th Knight's broadsword you picked up that might have been an afterthought in Breath of the Wild can now be fused with a monster part to make a fantastic weapon. But it's not just swords, it's shields and it's arrows. Try a new combination, see what it does. It's just incredible. Also, the synergy between Zonai abilities is at times effortless. Take Ultrahand and Recall for example. When you're using Ultrahand to build something but it fails, or something jets up into the sky or falls off a cliff unexpectedly, just recall it back up. Pause it real quick and reverse time. But as great as the game's design is, we can't just gloss over this game's externals. The setting, a remix version of Breath of the Wild's Hyrule on the brink of wasting away, new characters and designs I've completely fallen in love with, even the story, although I haven't personally reached the ending, is emotional and fascinating. Made all the better if you're familiar with the lore of Breath of the Wild and Zonai myth. But I want to end the video on something that might be obvious or in your face, but still something, like all of these things, we absolutely can't take for granted. And that's the map. The biggest, most grandiose version of Hyrule we've ever seen. First of all, it's totally new in video games, at least to my knowledge, to have an open world that also includes a fully explorable sky and underworlds. And the underworld is not just a small section, it's the entire map, cloned underground, astonishingly cohesive to what we have on top. Shrines on the surface are light routes below, and vice versa. And other key areas below ground correspond with key areas on the surface, making the entire thing feel whole. On top of this, the fully decorated sky gives the map such an impressive verticality. Playing through the Great Sky Island tutorial and looking out to the gigantic, fully playable world below me was breathtaking. It was that great plateau moment from Breath of the Wild, but amplified even more. Something I can't even imagine being topped in a future Zelda game, but guess what? It probably will. Tears of the Kingdom is so much more than what I can express in this short video, so we have to enjoy all of it fully. But I admit, you really have to think to fully appreciate this stuff. It's easy to just gloss over what Tears of the Kingdom is doing. It's human nature, and I do it myself a lot. Games like this don't happen every day, yet it's easy to brush it aside and say, it's the sequel to Breath of the Wild, or it's a Zelda game, of course it's going to be good. But thinking like that can cloud your vision. I'll try to never take it for granted, and I hope this helped everyone else to do the same.